Welcome to the Ericzone podcast. Today I'm with Michelle Eaton-Lusignan. She's Executive Director at ECOL, English Community Organization of Lanaudière. Before starting the podcast, I just want to thank everybody that's out there that are listening to the podcast, that are sharing, that are leaving little comments or giving us thumbs up. The podcast starts on baladoquebec.ca. Go have a look at the platform. There's a lot of other great web shows out there, podcasts on Balado Quebec. After that, it goes on Apple Podcasts. So if you're in the car, you want to listen to something, you download the podcast, go look at Ericzone Podcast. It's also on YouTube and Facebook, so please go like the pages. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. Thank you. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Eric.
Hi. So
Test.
We're both quiet,
We are
contemplative people. I'm gonna boost the signal a little bit. Which is not a bad thing.
I feel like being calm. It's been a very rushed week, so it's really nice to sit down with a glass of wine and just kind of schmooze and chat.
I agree. I have a little glass myself. I think this is the second podcast. Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Claude.
Cheers. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with the setup I have. It's I'm not there to show off or anything. I'm just trying to. I felt that it was like a social. It was part of me, my search, my values, what I wanted to put on the web. It was to be able to put something out there that goes beyond like just cat photos or putting memes and just. I mean, it is important to have fun and set some positive vibes out there through comedy or whatnot. But I mean, I needed to put something out there. When I was in Montreal or in Quebec City, I was like working in the private sector, and whatever I was doing, I just felt that there was something missing. Parallel to the work I was doing in the private sector, I really wanted to develop this capacity for me to produce content that had a social value, social awareness to like those new ideals of like the environment and people coming together,
equity and justice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I feel empty if I'm not working in that field. I feel that there's definitely something missing for me in my life, and I go to bed and I read books or I read stories about people that are actually doing something. They're actually getting involved and actually being shocked at like reading news with everything that's going on with the environment. And I want to do that, I want to be out there. I want to speak out. I want to be able to voice my concerns and inspire other people through art to create and to be involved. And that's... Well, it's not an obsession there, but obviously, like, I don't feel good.
It's a passion.
It's a passion, definitely a passion.
Yeah.
And through this podcast, what I'm aiming to do is like, I'm trying to figure out how the hell do I make money out of it? Because we don't have a choice. We need to be part of the economy. We need to push things forward in terms of like the economics of it all. And I think that's the most challenging part of it because when I was told that I was supposed to end up in marketing, like I didn't know I was like, oh my God, I'm in a marketing department. What am I doing here? And so eventually I'm like, how do I figure out how to like make my music known? How do I play music? How do I get involved with others and reach out and find that niche of people that are actually like actively working into making things better?
That share your values.
Exactly. Yeah. So... I mean, this is a good way of putting in context of this podcast and of meeting you today. And I mean, when I landed here last year in May of 2020 and right smack in the middle of COVID. Like, I'm like, how am I going to survive this? What am I doing? Okay, I go to university or I try to start my business. So I was waiting for that business venture situation with Untitled Quebec to try to figure it out. Was it possible? And I'm like, am I going to meet people? I'm in the forest. Where am I going to go? And then a friend of mine, Erin, who actually was on the podcast, she mentioned, what was the Montreal social organization there with Guy?
Elan.
Elan.
Yes, Elan.
I thought I was calling Elan, and then
it was
you
ECOL.
answered. and then I have a conversation with you, and then it was really uplifting. It was like, oh my God, what's going on? I found someone or like some place where there's actually the people that I was looking for all this time are there.
And you came to us at a time when we were particularly discouraged because of COVID. Because all of our activities had always been in person. We'd never done a Zoom before. We didn't have a camera. We weren't equipped to go online and to produce YouTube videos and things like that. And then you just sort of appeared in our lives.
Yeah.
And we've done some pretty cool things since. And
definitely.
And you're continuing with the community stuff. I heard that you're doing for the Table des Aînés also, for their colloque. It's so amazing that,
just
piece by piece, things fall into place sometimes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I had my apprehensions in regards to like the virtual world and how all communications were going to enable actually to govern some like establishing connections with different groups of people. But it turns out that it is possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody needs to just push in the right direction and never lose faith and never lose hope that they can actually have an impact on what like the world and the people around them. And I think that it's just reaching out to other people, and eventually it does happen. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, when I talked with you guys and I saw what you were doing, and then, as you said, you were looking for like a way to have like, I saw what you guys were doing and what you were trying to accomplish, and the restrictions because of COVID and not being certain. I mean, ECOL would have made it through, would have pulled through, because you guys have like, you're brilliant. You have brilliant ideas. You have ideas, innovation. You're trying to, like, you're passionate. So you were going to pull through. But I mean, I was glad to be there to give you a little help with the social media and the video. And
it certainly helped us to reach a larger audience and a different audience than those who we were already reaching before. Some have been left behind. It's sad, but the technology has not been kind to everyone, especially our older seniors or people who don't have the means to get equipment, and they're not trained on it and they're scared of it. Yeah. Mind you, we've been working on that as well. But I think that no matter what happens, if there ever is a post-COVID, that it won't go away, that going online and producing our videos or doing our Zooms has given us a new way to reach people. So as much as we are back with people in person, which is great, and people are turning out, and they've missed us so much. They've missed each other. That's been pretty gratifying. But at the same time, we're looking at winter. We look at how people don't want to travel in the winter, especially older people, to go on the road. And so we can maintain our activities now. We have, with the technology, a way to get our messages out and to maintain activities, maintain contact between people, which is really cool. And having our stuff up on YouTube, well, that opens up a whole other door too. And it's opened a door across the province, I think, where, because ECOL is not the only English language group in the network. We're a huge network. We're everywhere. Abitibi, Lower North Shore, Gaspésie. There are groups like ECOL all over the place. And what's nice about this network is it's so non-competitive. We share our tools, we share our information, we share our videos. And so what we produce is not just for Lanaudière right now. And it used to almost always be just for Lanaudière, and now we're reaching the province sometimes with what we do. And out of province, people who have left Quebec but want to maintain a contact. With our film on the manoir, the destruction of the manoir, that was very much the case. People who used to live in Mascouche and moved away to Ontario, Alberta, whatever, were...
They must have been shocked. That
we were shocked.
Saw. Yeah.
We were shocked. So I can only imagine for them, if you've been away and haven't been at all aware of the local politics. And yeah.
Yeah, because I remember dropping by at ECOL, and then I came in and we were supposed to meet, and then I noticed you guys were talking, and didn't like eavesdrop or anything, but I heard that you were talking about what was going on, and I think that was right before or maybe after. And the how the impact on like I saw that you were really troubled by what happened in Mascouche with the manoir. So it's great work on the part of Mathieu, who was in charge. I guess he's the
he's a community development officer, and we had initially started writing. He had initially started writing a documentary about the manoir, but as the manoir is still standing today. We were in a pre-production meeting back last November, and as we were getting up to leave, I went and checked my news feed, and that's where we learned that they had already demolished it without anyone knowing that it was coming. It was just out of the blue, and there went our film, right? Because our film relied a lot on
It being there.
Yeah, exactly. Like the main star of the film was gone. And so I was pretty pleased with how he turned that about and was able to tell the story from the Manoir's perspective and raise awareness about the necessity. Well, we feel it's a necessity to pay a little more attention to our built heritage. And this one touched us particularly because it was part of the built heritage of both English and French communities in Mascouche. So it was a way also to bridge the two communities. And moving forward, I spoke to you that we are hoping to move into Grace Church in Mascouche to set up office and activity space there. We're in negotiations for that now. And part of the intention behind that is to help protect that building. If we can help save that, you know, because that's part of the history of the Manoir too. The Manoir's gone, but this is one of the babies that came out of it.
Which church is that, the name again? Sorry.
It's the Anglican parish of Mascouche, but the church's name is Grace Church.
Oh, is that the white one?
Yes, the white one.
That's a beautiful building. Who in his right mind would want to not destroy it?
Well, the problem is that like churches across the province and probably across Canada, the numbers are going down. We asked them today, you know, how many people are supporting this church? Well, like 7 regular members. Maybe on a really good service, a memorial service or something, they're reaching 20 parishioners. Oh. But that's not enough to maintain a church. And so the debts are increasing. And our hope with that is if we are able to rent it, if all goes through with the diocese and the parish itself, would be to allow the church to continue using the church for its given purpose, which is to hold services and ceremonies and whatever other church activities they would like to hold for their particular community, but also to bring it alive again, to bring life around that, because a church...
A center of community.
Is a center of community, exactly. Some people go and they don't even believe, but they go to get that community. And
perhaps in the past, like the purpose of that building or the message or the passion, not the passion, wrong word, Passion of the Christ.
Yes, the Passion of the Christ.
The intentions of the people who were behind the church was like a good, positive message, but it got kind of hijacked. Anyways, we don't need to go back into like the history of Quebec and the Révolution Tranquille and the way that it was transitioned and the Catholic Church was kind of set aside to bring about the Ministère du Québec for education and all that. But so communities have had it tough with like the lack of like that spiritual guidance to a certain degree, and then the family values are like a little bit broken because of like divorce and whatnot. So today, like, that is a worthy, a good way of coming to not the rescue of communities, but I mean, that's a great idea. I think that it's symbolic almost that you would take that church.
I think it is. It is, because we had the choice of another space as well, which is still available, but it took a lot of reflection to decide between the two, but we felt this was more at the heart of the English-speaking community of Mascouche, which has diminished greatly in the past decades, but to preserve a little bit of that history. Yeah. And, of course, ECOL is not by any means a religious organization. We are totally non-denominational, although we partner with churches and we'll partner with synagogues, we'll partner with mosques, whomever. We'll partner with any community or community organization that has a project or initiative where we share similar values around it, where we have similar intentions. So this is clear that with the church, although we are not an Anglican organization by any means, that when we talk, we discover that we share common values of respect and support and value for the past, value for the elders who went before us, and hope for the future and fellowship.
Why it's good to bring back some light on that building for like historical reasons and the heritage, and it needs to be like inspiring the people, because they're going to go in front of this building and it's like beautiful. It has like
ambiance. Yeah.
When you walk around and you see a McDonald's, a Subway, and all these corporate things everywhere, and it's like it feels good to just look at a building for its craft and the cultural value of it itself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The history, you just feel the history in it.
But would you like to focus on Rawdon, or like is Mascouche, that's always like, it's part of Lanaudière basically, so it's part of the mandate.
It's part of the mandate. We are we have a regional mandate, so all of Lanaudière, which is a huge chunk of land, but not that many Anglophones compared to the huge chunk of land. So the concentration of Anglophones, according to the last census, there's Rawdon, which is where we started out because we had a great base. We had a great community that was willing to work towards building it up. Then Mascouche, and now we're moving into Repentigny. I am curious to see the census that was just completed, and we don't have the results yet. I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers are going to have changed. We're aware that more and more people are leaving the city right now, or the cities, if you're talking about Laval, Montreal, even Terrebonne and Repentigny, they're moving closer to the north now.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a migration, a definite migration.
It was already planned, the migration. It was always supposed to be like already like a group of people were escaping the city, and then COVID just made it worse.
COVID accelerated it.
Yeah, accelerated, sorry.
But a lot of it was also for the increased immigration to Quebec, that they were hoping to get people less in the city and more into the region. So I think that sort of the planning behind the development was that. But when COVID hit, it's been incredible, the outward migration from Montreal. And
my mother, she's like at home, she's like relaxing, and all of a sudden there's like a ring at the doorbell, and this person just shows up and like, are you selling your house by any chance? We want to leave Montreal.
Yeah. We like this house. Can we have it, please?
Can we have it? Right in the middle of the COVID.
That's what's been happening. So, and we saw this too with because we work with all different organizations and establishments pretty intensively. And with Joliet Elementary School last year, before the COVID hit, we were asking them what the school entry for the kindergarten pre-K, what did that look like? What municipalities do these families come from? And they were saying that they were having a big boom in Montcalm, so around Saint-Lin, Saint-Calixte, places where usually English people didn't go at all. And these are kids who are going into English school. Mind you, that does not mean that the family speaks English, because lots of kids in English school are French-speaking, and their parents as well. But it was interesting. So there's been an outward migration from the city that's going to show up in the next census, and then we'll have to take a look at that and see if we're still in the right places. But I don't think we're in the wrong places, but we might need to add more places.
But I mean, what we were mentioning earlier was like the communications between like the different different areas, like Gaspé and all these other communities. So, and not the economy, but I mean, the purpose of it is not to make money. It's like the enlightenment, intellectual, social, cultural enlightenment. So it's not a capitalistic endeavor where people are like playing rough and they're just trying to get to the finish line first. So I really like that approach of these groups.
I love that,
yeah.
Because so often, traditionally, it has been in the community sector that everybody's fighting over the same bit of money.
Yeah.
You know, they want their piece of the pie, but they want a big piece of the pie. And we're really not like that. Our network negotiates collectively for grants and things like that. So if we're 20 organizations applying to a government ministry or whatever, then we're 20 who agree on the objectives of what we want to do. But the specific activities always come down to what's appropriate for our organization. You know, some of them have very tiny populations. Others have bigger populations. The needs are not the same. If you're in Montreal and you have access to all kinds of things in English, it's not quite the same thing as maybe the lower North Shore, where or Lanaudière, where basically we are 2 community organizations who offer services exclusively in English only. So if we were to only partner with English speakers in our region, we'd be pretty bored most of the time.
Yeah.
But we do partner with the others, and they do all kinds of cool things, and sometimes it inspires us, and sometimes it's like, well, you know, we're not going to go into the fisheries because les îles La Madeleine, ils font. It's not our, you know, we don't have a whole lot of fisheries in Lanaudière here.
Yeah.
For us, it's different things that we want to do.
Yeah.
It's
Mesquinongé is not really a good place to go fishing because I think it's been pretty much massacred with the boats and all
the
that.
boats,
Ugh, it's
the
disgusting what
pollution.
they've done.
Yeah.
Troubling.
So, it's different for every community, but there are things that collectively run through every community, and it's those values and the overall objectives of where we want to go. We must say also that because, yes, we work with them, but we work even more intensively with the French-speaking community in Lanaudière. Because our job is not to come in and replace, or not to replace, but to duplicate things that are already being done. If there's an organization, a Francophone organization, and they have the capacity to do things in English, then we can step in, we can help them with translations, or there's all kinds of things we can do for them. Even if they don't have any capacity at all, but it's their mandate to work, say, in mental health. And we have somebody in the community who has needs that they could fulfill, then we can go in and do the informal interpretation or, find resources for them. There's all kinds of ways that we can partner with them. So sometimes the old school Anglos, the ones who aren't so bilingual, who weren't brought up that way, where it was really two solitudes, if they call and our message is in French and in English, they might get upset. Well, you're supposed to be the English community organization. And we have to explain to them, yes, but lots of times it's the French-speaking social worker who calls us, or a community organization for a drug and alcohol abuse prevention, and they want our help, but they need to know that we can welcome them in French, even if they can't welcome us in English. And really, at the beginning, when I started 7 years ago, I did not expect to be as well received, but we have been pretty consistently well received across the region by all kinds of different organizations, and they want to make that effort. They want to work with us.
We don't necessarily have to make it like a language thing, and I might cut this out, but I mean, because the way that I perceive it is like it's a scientific endeavor where right now it seems like an issue about language it's because like pretty much around the globe, humans are not at that point where they're going to be intellectually evolved enough to be able to contend with those patriotic emotions that block like the proper evolution of human intellect. Like, I mean, we're at that point right now basically, and everybody needs to make an effort to be open-minded and inviting to everybody and not feel like paranoid that you're going to get hijacked or...
enough things divide us now.
Yeah.
COVID has been a big divider for a lot of people. No matter what one's views are on it. I know families and friends, relationships that have been torn asunder in the last year and a half because of different approaches to COVID, different values surrounding it, different beliefs. And that's torn us apart so much. Yeah. And now we're going to, excuse the expression, and perhaps you might want to cut this, but stir the shit pot again, with revisiting Bill 101, Bill 96, and all these things. And is that where we should be right now? Is that where we want to put our focus? Fortunately, with ECOL, I don't have to, because we're not a highly politicized organization. There are other organizations who do lobbying, and so we need to learn about it. We need to tell our members what's contained in the bill if they ask us, or, if we want to do an information session. But we're not particularly taking position on it because we don't need anything else that divides us.
Yeah, well, helping people out is not a political position. And that's what I find strange about the COVID, because you're denying the vaccine, but you're taking a political stance, or basically you're refusing to be considerate. For me, that's what I see right now. Like, I do understand the COVID denier approach, like the corporate takeover of the medical field and just making a lot of money on people, and that I understand, and I do keep an eye out for that, and I am open to the point of view of people that are like worried about the vaccine. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like basic human decency, I think. But anyways, we're veering off track here.
Perhaps digressing a bit. Community organizations are considered essential services right now. So generally, we're not required to request the passport for most activities. For some, we are. But it's important to recall that community organizations are to be as inclusive as possible and to help especially the most marginalized in society. And if the non-vaccinated are the most marginalized right now, we won't be turning them away unless we're doing yoga or
like a close
serving a meal or,
yeah.
Something that's that we can't do. For the last year and a half, like all community organizations who are considered essential services and who have continued to offer services, the measures, the sanitary measures, have not gone away anywhere. So you're still washing your hands, you're still wearing that mask, and you're still keeping your distances, and that's the way it goes. So we do our best, and quite honestly, nobody that I heard of anyway got sick through any of our activities last year, and so we've been a year and a half good of trying to protect people. We've been really doing a lot for the vaccination the whole year, the vaccination appointments, the testing appointments, informing people of, where's the rapid testing unit, the mobile testing unit today, because it's not advertised in English. So we would get out there and put that out and helping people get to their appointments, making appointments for them if they're not comfortable or they don't have computers. And now it's the passports that my assistant has been for the last week printing and laminating. Oh, my
goodness.
But there is a concern is it a concern? It's something that it's a concern, I think, in a way. Obviously, people trust us immensely because they come in with their ID, with their personal information. They give us everything we'd need to create a false identity.
Yeah.
Like, big time. And they give it all to us, and I don't think that they're quite aware. And I tell them, like, you realize with the information you're giving me that I could do bad things with it. Yeah. So I want you to it's consent, it's informed consent, that, and oh no, I trust you. And well, you may trust me, but be careful who you trust because.
Well, this is, it's a, prestigious, is that too big of a word? With all the work that you've accomplished.
We are recognized. We are recognized and respected in the community because of the work we've done. We are well known. And and I don't think we've ever done anything to take away that trust in the least bit. In fact, we've just built on it. Yeah. But I do see how vulnerable some are and how easy it would be to take advantage of that. So
it takes a lot of work to gain the trust of certain people, and it takes a lot. Yeah, it takes a lot of work. So after all these, it must feel good though to. It's kind of like a high where you see the impact that you have on these people's lives, and it enriches your resolve to do more. And some of our work was pretty intimate in the first and second wave, I guess, of COVID too, where we couldn't get together as groups. So we put a lot of focus on the most vulnerable populations, particularly the seniors. Some of them still have not left their house since the beginning of COVID. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be dangerous.
Some of them were physically. Sick before. Some of them were sick before. They were convalescing. COVID hit. So they've been home for a full 2 years. Not left their driveway. Some have, the only social contacts that they've had have been home care workers, nurses. That's about it. And now we have to work on deconditioning them and making them feel safe to come out again because it's taken a real toll, yes, on the mental health, big time, but on the physical health. They're not moving. They're not going out. They're not, Yeah,
the fear of going outside was so immense.
And some people didn't get out of it, over that. Yeah.
You build this, defense mechanism where you're just
everything
going
is
into
threatening.
Yeah.
Where's the COVID?
Already, if you're convalescing, you're coming back from surgery or whatever, and your immune system is down, and then you have this crazy virus running around, and it's like doubly...
With the information changing at least weekly, if not daily. And so it's been a scary time for a lot of people. And
it must have been tough for you, as the administrator or the director. What is your title?
I am executive director.
Executive director. As executive director, it must you got to balance the emotion, the connection to these people, and at the same time you got to take care of the administrative aspect of it, and
the staff, the other staff.
The staff, yeah.
Because all staff had their own life situations,
Yeah.
Some have older parents that they couldn't see or they were worried about. Some have children, and so there was schools being shut down, and how do you balance that, work and school and whatever. For all of us working from home, overnight pretty much, that all of a sudden everybody goes home for, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you
to
think
flatten
it's
the
gonna be
curve.
over. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's not over and it's not over. And so people's jobs, like if my job is to facilitate seniors' activities at the church hall every week, and I can't do that, what is my purpose? And the fear of being laid off because we can't fulfill our job requirements, and working from inadequate offices at home, like at your kitchen table, and what toll does that take on your physical health as well?
Yeah.
So there was a lot on our plate. There always is a lot on our plate,
Yeah,
but it was new
like,
stuff.
yeah,
It was a whole new recipe on our plate there, and
Did you see it as a défi? Did you see it as a
I saw it as survival.
survival? Yeah.
Yeah, and all rushing out like heroes at the beginning because what do we do? And we have to learn. We have to stay up to date on everything that's going on, all the changes. We have to be able to inform community. Quickly, we ran into people who were not able to go out to the grocery, those kinds of things, the pharmacy. How can we help them? How can we help the other organizations that all of a sudden have an uptick in needs? They've lost their 70-plus volunteers, 70 years old and up.
Yeah, you had like a group of people that was like your street team kind of situation?
Well, us a bit, but other organizations even more, the ones who are doing like food security things, the frozen meals and this kind of thing. Blood donation clinics, things like that. Their volunteers are generally old.
Go.
And they couldn't go. So we were able to jump in like superheroes and dispatch the staff to the different organizations and to organize all these food runs and that, which was fine for the first few weeks. And then the calls of distress started coming in, where people's mental health was already crashing.
Yeah, seriously.
And since my phone used to be, just recently isn't anymore, but used to be the main line for the office, I would get them all.
Oh.
Yeah, and then have to hook them up with resources, and some of the resources just don't exist. Suicide prevention resources in Lanaudière in English don't exist. You want to send there's a woman who's experienced conjugal violence, and it's been made worse by COVID, and you want to place her somewhere, but they can't take her. Where do you place her? It's out of the region. It's out of her community. It's way out of her comfort zone, away from her friends, and so there was a lot of distress to deal with, and I guess the thing I'll speak for myself because every single staff member reacted differently and at different times according to their different circumstances. For me, it became such an adrenaline, and working from home is not something that I enjoy because I like to make that separation between home and work. It just became all-consuming. My work was always there. There was always another email to check or a phone message or a text, and I was the first one back in the office. As soon as they allowed us back, it's like, no, man, I need to be back. I need to make some sense.
Balance things out. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So do you see it like as a challenge because you seem like a strong person, you see it as a challenge, and with all that going on, like emotionally, you gotta like how do you have 2 feet in like the emotion and the administrative part of it? Like, it must be so like...
it's a head spinner. It's a head spinner, and and it doesn't begin and end necessarily with home and work because I have family who's far away as well, and they had problems also, and so at some point you have to compartmentalize a bit and numb down. Numb down, and then I think the discomfort resurges later under different circumstances.
Yeah,
so
when the adrenaline
drops,
goes,
and I see this in my team. We're all in different places at different times, and it's like, who needs to take care of whom right now? But fortunately, we do that, and that I think is our strength. It being adaptable. Having gone through rapid growth already for the organization in 7 years, I went from being all alone in a tiny little office to all of a sudden, I just hired the 9th employee this week. So, and all kinds of activities, just Rawdon to all of a sudden we've got 2 other satellite offices. So it's been all the time very dynamic, very much in growth.
Yeah. But is it like, I mean, in the corporate sector or the private sector, I mean, if you're not growing, you're not going in the right direction. But for a community organization, is that the same case? Is like, if you're not growing, is it necessarily bad or?
No, it's not.
No,
I think because there's a first period of, you're integrating, you're starting everything up and you're feeling your way, is this work, does that work, whatever. Once you've got the base down, then you go into a development stage, and that's where you grow and grow and grow. But if you continue that way, you might grow too fast and it can crumble easily. So you've got to look at a consolidation stage where it's like, okay, we're doing a good job. We're basically covering all of our objectives here. People are satisfied. We're at a comfortable stage, and let's see if we can, instead of trying to go farther, let's see if we can dig deeper and increase our base
strengthen.
Here. Yeah, strengthen it.
Yeah.
And once you're able to do that, yes, you can continue to develop it. You do it in a less rapid method, and it becomes a more of a level of maturity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after that, yes, other things can happen, and maybe you'll go back to an earlier stage at some point because of circumstances. But I would say that we are still in a development stage, but approaching the consolidation, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And I can rest more.
Well. Yeah, it's a challenge, and I mean because you were mentioning the other groups of people, like the different community organizations of different regions, and when you compare notes with them and you learn from them, it's similar to the private sector, but I think it's like you said, it's more like, well, I mean, you didn't say down to earth, but I mean, you're not trying to make money, you're trying to enrich yourself intellectually, so I think that's the true form of like human interaction I would go towards. And at the end of the day, it's a vocation. It's a passion, like you said. It's something that you do that you're not in it for the money.
No, none of us are in for the money.
But you're not in it to get in danger for your health. But in the past year, that's pretty much what happened, because when the people are not there to, like all these groups, the street team, as I said, are not there anymore because they can't go outside, and you're putting yourself on the front lines. That could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Who thought that would have been the case,
No, it's the collateral damage. It's the collateral damage of COVID, and we're going to see more of it. We're going to see it with our youth.
Yeah.
They had a very rough year last year, the kids in school and their teachers. Had probably an even rougher time than the kids themselves. So kids tend to be more adaptable, I guess, than adults. But what the parents had to go through, those who were sent home to work, but your kid is also Zooming from home all day, and maybe your partner's Zooming from home all day. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 kids. How do you manage all of that? My heart goes out.
And is that why? I mean, could you tell us about the ECOL Lanaudière Youth? Was that something already in place before COVID, and it just jump-started it, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
No, the youth program is because really in our mission we're there for English-speaking citizens of all ages in Lanaudière. And at the beginning, because we had a strong base of seniors, and that's what they wanted, we developed the seniors activities. Work with Canadian Heritage has allowed us to go into like cultural activities with younger, like with the public schools or whatever, that age group. What do we have for young adults? We didn't have a whole lot. So the employment strategy project, initially it was youth employment exclusively. Other groups are working on different demographic groups on their projects. We've decided to continue focusing on youth because we were a little late in getting started, because hiring bilingual and trained personnel in the region is not easy. So it took us a very long time to find a project officer for it. So basically got started late on it. We decided to continue with our initial work plan. Our youth are out there. We've looked into we've been building a profile that we should be publishing fairly soon. Our youth actually are doing better than we thought. They're highly bilingual. They are maybe not upwardly mobile, but they're holding their own. I don't know if anybody's upwardly mobile right now. But they're holding their own compared to the French-speaking youth. So we thought we'd have to go in and do a lot of work to bring them up to that level, but finally, no. I think what we'll probably do is bring French and English youth together and see how we can build those bridges.
Yeah, because I mean, I did something for Maison des Jeunes of Rawdon recently, and they're pretty good at skateboarding. And what's the trottinette thing?
Yeah, the trottinette, the
oh
scooters.
my God,
Yeah.
the scooters.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw the scooter thing happening. I wasn't expecting that kids were into scooters today.
I know. Well,
That's
they've
so
been there
weird.
for a while.
Yeah?
But yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even see it coming. I was shocked.
When I first saw the kids there at the first skate park, I had actually worked for the Maison des Jeunes de Rawdon from 98 to 2000.
Oh.
And that's when we had begun speaking about the skate park and everything. I left before it was accomplished. Me as a mom, I drive by there and I'm just like,
someone's gonna get hit.
Somebody's
Yeah,
going to get a
head.
concussion today.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, they're really good. They're, I think we underestimate our kids a
They're
lot.
good. I could show you what I filmed, but I
See them almost every day out there, and
too much time on this, but oh my God, they're really good. The trottinette thing. I mean, last time
and some of the littler kids, they're just like, they have no fear.
like last time I saw trottinette was like in Back to the Future. And,
Yeah, right.
And he was ripping off the stand and saying, "No, the skateboards are more fun and then,
More cool. I mean,
yeah, more cool." And then I go to Rawdon and the Park Fest.
I would never have had a
Maison des Jeunes,
trottinette at their
and they're
age.
just like jumping around and doing these cool
Look at
tricks.
them.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's
at them.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. I was really surprised.
See, this was filmed, and they're all wearing their helmets. When I drive past,
yeah.
they've got
They
no
gotta look-
protection. But you know what? And it's almost all boys. That's something I know. There are a
Yeah,
few girls, but it's mostly the boys.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you gotta not filter, but channel the testosterone somewhere. And I think
Oh,
that
well,
it's
I have
like,
a son and 2 daughters. I know there's
yeah.
differences. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but I think at one point there was a mother with 2 kids. They were coming at the skate park, and she was like sheepishly walking them, holding their hands amidst these teen boys causing a ruckus there. She was like,
But good for them. I am happy to see that they're using that energy and that they're using their bodies.
yeah.
I've talked to different employers in the region because there is a divide between. There's so many unemployed young people, and yet there are so many jobs that they can't find staff. And one of them told me that in the more manual jobs, like the hardware stores and that the young men, I guess, or boys or young men that they hire, don't have the physical stamina to do the jobs anymore. Whereas 10 years ago, that wasn't an issue at all. And so some employers have had to become creative. They hire their young people, like,
Get them back into shape.
no, but they hire them to work Thursday, Friday, so then they get Saturday and Sunday off to recover, and then go back in Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday off. They have to give them training because kids have become couch potatoes.
yeah. Oh, yeah, to that point. Oh, my
But to see them
goodness.
all these ones scooting around there, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it is a good sign.
Kids should be moving.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was at that point.
Well, that's what I was told. Listen, we've
does
just started
make
scraping the
sense.
surface of.
It does make sense. I mean, with the iPads and the Xbox and everything more and more exponentially taking over media, you have these. It's very impressive. To go on Netflix is there. As a kid, it was like Saturday morning cartoons. There were 3 cartoons I could watch between 6 and 10-ish. But now it's like nonstop all the time. You can just go on YouTube. You have whatever you want to watch is right there.
Whenever you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the phone, the media itself, support is there, the phones. And yeah, I can understand how we're going to just turn out into like aliens one day.
Well, when I was a
figure
kid,
out.
I hung out with boys, and we were really into Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But, sometimes we'd be sitting around the kitchen table at my house usually because my mom made the best desserts. But, Friday, Saturday night or whatever. But a lot of times we'd be out running the woods or, in fields and reenacting. And this is in our teens that, it was very interactive. Now you can sit and play with your friends, but they're not in the same even in the same town as you necessarily. So, I mean,
it's a double-edged sword.
I do not demonize technology.
No, exactly. Like
At all.
use it in a certain way, it's
Yeah.
beneficial. But if you're just sitting down at home and just like
If you're just-
destroying your health and just not doing anything, that's bad. Yeah. And who's responsible? Like, is it the media, corporate media, that's responsible for this destruction of youth, or is it the parents that need to like take courses to try to figure out what to do? And
well, the parents are just as much on their screens as the kids are, aren't they? So it's a societal thing.
Yeah.
It's choices we've made as a society. It's how schools teach now. What's a classroom without a smartboard? They can't find
exactly.
teachers. They cannot find teachers. We have a huge penury of teachers. And I was talking to a retired teacher. They've been begging her, please come back, please come back. And she said, I would. But they've become so reliant on technology, and she's older. And she's
include
like,
the iPads in the class, and then
smart boards and whatnot.
yeah.
And she's like, I'm just not there, and I don't want to learn all that. I don't feel like I should have to, and I don't want to. So if I could go back to old school teaching, they wanted me like that, I'd go.
Yeah.
But so there's a huge divide, a digital divide, and
after a career
divide.
of being like in a class, and then today it's a different
and what if
people
you have to
coming
go
in.
on Zoom too? Like, what if all of a sudden all the kids are sent back home? And that was a learning curve for the teachers. Do you know how they felt when I sit on the governing board at Joliet High School, and I heard them, like, you're trying to teach on Zoom with your classroom, and most of the kids have their cameras off. And they weren't allowed to tell them, to force them to have their cameras on. And in some cases, there may be very good reasons why those cameras are off. First of all, they may not have a webcam.
They're not even there. They're just...
They might not be there, or they may not, their parents may not permit it. We don't want the school seeing into our homes, the most vulnerable families, or your mom's working in the same room where you're trying to study, the bed's not made, whatever reason. Yeah. But for the teachers to stare into their camera and...
No one's there. No faces.
You don't know. And you ask a question and there's no response, and you're not getting any body language or any nonverbal stuff. It's just radio silence. Yeah. A teacher interacts usually. A teacher does not just preach. Well, some of them do. But mostly, there's a back and forth.
Yeah, you're going there for like a connection with the people you're giving information to. You want feedback.
Yeah.
Kind of like a comedian that needs to have...
And applause
or exactly, or laughs or anything.
Yeah,
but
Oh, so it was very heavy on... It weighed heavily on a lot of teachers, I know.
And plus, youth are having trouble from what I gather with like education, and now this comes into line, and it must make it so much more difficult for like the educational system is having trouble. I don't know exactly all the parameters that are cause this. But
I can only speculate. I mean, I can only observe and speculate. But I don't think there's any one factor that we can ever blame for anything. I think it's always a combination of factors. And for ECOL, what factors can we work on? Is where we try to go. And
because it's different from region to, like, let's say a metropolitan area of Montreal, where like there would be a lot more different cultures in the class, and that might impact the teaching method. But then when you go in regions, it's like not that really prevalent, but there are other issues that might come into play. And then,
well, if you're in Montreal and you want to stay after school because there's this cool program, maybe they're doing karate or it's theater group or whatever, you can do that and take a bus home. Yeah. In the region, you can't. And parents aren't always available, or they might not have the car or the gas to put in the car to drive their kid back and forth to for these activities. We rely on the buses, and some kids are already traveling 3 hours a day on the buses here. So do you really want to keep them later? At a certain point, where's their home life? All these questions. So anyway, those are the questions we ask, and then we try to come up with little solutions to them. Can we bring activities into the school, lunchtime, during a class? Maybe it's a phys ed class, but we bring in, I don't know, a martial arts guy and, something. There's all kinds of cool ideas that we can do, but COVID has limited our presence in the schools for sure.
Oh my goodness. But initially ECOL, I mean, the history of ECOL, like early on, like the first few days, the mandate mainly was for the elder population to be represented.
That's what the initial board of directors had specified as early objectives. That was the first need that they saw. And but since then, of course, we just listen to the community, and of course there are tendencies across the province as well. So when funding packages come out, sometimes it gives us an opportunity to, well, let's try this, let's see if it works or not.
Well, expand. I mean, like I said before, like if you're not like growing, you're not going to make it. But it doesn't apply to community organizations. But there is an importance that you need to adapt, and you need to get a feel of the community. And if you're in touch with the community, then
it's organic. It just happens.
Yeah, you're a chameleon or something.
Well, because our board of directors are made up of volunteers from our community. What's new this year is we have a young board member. Our vice president is in his 20s. So that's new. It's the first time that we really have more of an age and demographic diversity on our board. So and that'll be nice. I mean, not to say that I didn't enjoy working with just pretty much mostly seniors, but of course their preoccupations are different than what the younger people might have, and we still have work to do in that area. But no, I think we are pretty good. And listen, I've turned down funding envelopes this year already, perhaps 3 since April. That, in fact, development in mental health services, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. The Francophone community doesn't have mental health services. How can I go out and get some for the English? How? What would that look like? Right now, we're just not there. There's so much groundwork to be done, even though, well, we need these services and that, but I'm not just going to take the money and say, oh, let's do anything with it. There has to be some kind of a logic behind it. We have to hope to obtain some kind of an outcome.
Is it the expression spread too thin, or does that apply? Or
It can apply particularly because of human resource constraints.
Okay.
We could have many, many, many projects, but can I hire the many, many, many people that I need to take care of them? Yeah. And especially in a context where many people want to work part-time. They don't want to do their 35 hours. They want a 28-hour week, a 14-hour week, or they're taking on contractual work elsewhere. And I understand all that. I mean, I understand that so well. But for an employer, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
I've seen it firsthand. I see the work that's being put into all these amazing projects. And if people want to go have a look, the YouTube page, look up for ECOL, English Community Organization of Lanaudière on YouTube, or on the Facebook, or the website. Go directly to the website and you can see, all the great projects that are being made there. And there is an involvement by all the people that are working with you on your team that are like putting so much effort, and it's great work that they're doing, and it's a vocation. It is tiring at the end of the year. You're looking forward for a little downtime, but
we still keep coming back.
And that's the great thing about vocations. You see these nurses going to work, and considering what they've been through with COVID, they keep going back. And I've seen videos of nurses like totally like exhausted, but I mean,
mind you, that was before pre-COVID as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, seriously. So it's similar. I mean, you're probably not like they're not on the floor
no,
exhausted.
Not to that point, because I don't work them to that extent either.
That's what makes a good director, I guess.
Well, I have that choice. I guess if I was a hospital director, maybe I wouldn't have those choices. And that goes back to previous decisions that were made, previous priorities that we decided to make, again, politically and as a society, that have led to this. So we were not prepared at all.
But it's because in the 60s, when the Révolution Tranquille, and when they set the healthcare and social healthcare and Ministère de l'Éducation, they didn't consider what was going to happen, like in the demographic sense, or in the way that how it was going to evolve. So at some point, there needs to be an adjustment today that they seem to have a lot of trouble to readjust. Like no matter which government is in power, like federal or provincial, it's just they can't seem to balance out the capitalistic intentions and
they can't seem to think past their next mandate.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing about political parties. They only stay for 4 years or 8 perhaps, and then but after that they haven't made the proper efforts. They haven't pushed because they have certain people they need to please first off, the ones that are financing their parties. And
things don't change overnight. They can't. And if they do, then they're fragile. They're shaky.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's...
It's part of the research. Like what I'm doing with my work is trying to figure out how to make money through what I'm doing, but it's the same thing for governments. And like we need to as individuals, get involved with our governments and get involved with our, like, speaking out and being out there, and not being just sitting at home on our sofas
and liking posts on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or not liking them.
I don't know if it has an impact. I mean, for me as a content creator on YouTube and on Facebook and all that stuff, like, obviously I'm always saying at the beginning of the podcast that I need people to give me some thumbs up, because it is a political, you're giving me thumbs up, so I'm going to move up in the hierarchy or the.
Of course.
But I mean, this is
for us too, but.
Yeah.
But you know, somebody can like something and you don't know why they're liking it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's where the dialogue needs to come in, the conversations, and to dig a little bit deeper.
Because we're all trying to reach out. We all want to reach out for others. We're trying to, like, connect with others. So why is it so difficult? I mean, there needs to be a human challenge to, like, try to make it or work. Like, if it was easy, then humans would go crazy. We need a challenge. But I mean, at some point, the economy, the way that it's formatted, it's like there seems to be like it seems to play a game on us, and we're not like. So after the mandate of, like, the English community in Rawdon, I guess we could perhaps go to, like, the history of it all, or maybe, like.
Oh, I can lead you through a brief history, because it's brief enough. The organization was incorporated in the fall of 2012, which means that we're going to have our 10th year anniversary next year. And we've already started thinking about what we're going to do for that. The first projects were done, applied for and carried out by the board, or board with contractual worker. And they finally got a grant that allowed them to pay a salary in 2014. In the summer of 2014 is when I was hired. They didn't have an office for me when they accepted me as an employee. They said, "Would you be willing to work from home?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." "Oh, well, I'll refuse the job if that's what it comes down to," kind of thing. And so they ran out and found an office for me, like between Thursday and Monday, kind of thing. Oh. Yeah, and everything was to be built. I was given the two projects that had been applied for. One of them had been carried out. No, actually, there was one project that had been carried out and two more. The one that I had been hired under, and then a smaller one that was very specific. And go with it, figure it out. I guess what was easier for me is that I have quite a long history with the community sector in Lanaudière. I had spoken about the Maison des Jeunes de Rawdon. I also worked for a number of years for the Maison de Parents de la Matawini West, and have volunteered elsewhere aussi, Solidarité Sociale Rawdon. So I know the actors in the community sector. I've known them. I've sat on different round tables with them, and it was easy for me to find my way back in there. I knew the doors to knock on, and the doors that were already open, I didn't even have to knock. I just walk right in. And I think that's what I brought to ECOL, because it would have been really hard for somebody without that background to go in and develop it. But since I was already known with the French community, then I already had some credibility that they were willing to accept. And they knew me, and they knew that I spoke French, and that I'm married to a Francophone, a Québécois. So, yeah, so they were, okay, we have this organization now. The funding helped a lot. A lot of the funding comes through federal channels. And like I said, we have a network of organizations across the province. So through the network, we got a lot of support, which helped us get the funding. Then it was to staff people. And some of the staff, it's been serendipity, just like when you came along and, I need an Eric for right now. Well, my first Diane came along, and it was like, I don't even know you, but I guess you're what I needed. And so building it up like that to, as of this week, 9 employees, spread out over 3 satellite offices. We've been in Mascouche since 2015. So 2014, mainly Rawdon, but already beginning in 2015, we were developing some services, again for seniors in Mascouche. But reaching out to the other organizations, sitting at round tables, figuring out what needs to be done, getting involved with the schools, providing health, because our first mandate was definitely health and social services and access to health and social services in English. But since then, new funding has allowed us to expand our mandate into other areas as well. So even though we're still very preoccupied by health and social services, education, culture, heritage, employment have all become sub-mandates that we're working on. So that's and we just rented a satellite office in Repentigny. So there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. It's great work because you started from scratch, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. I had a computer.
You had a computer, but you had a plan.
And a desk.
And a desk. You had a plan. You knew where you were going. You knew what had to be done to bring this about and make it happen.
Well, if that's maybe one of I have two superhero strengths, I guess. One of them is my fast typing skills, which saves me so much time. And the other one is a very strategic mind, the ability to see the big picture.
Yeah.
Of course, with that comes the counter part of it, whereas I have a terrible attention to detail. I can only see the big picture, and I need people behind me to sweep up or to correct my little dyslexic type things that I do. But big picture, strategic thinking, analysis, synthesis of information, and looking ahead. That's
essential for
that's
a
who I
director.
am.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
They knew who they were going to get when they hired you.
I don't know if they had that much choice. I don't know how many CVs they got. Not too many.
Okay. I'm throwing flowers. You can take them if you want. But it's great work. I mean, it feels like we're ending the podcast, but we got an hour done. We can talk a little bit more. I just want to make sure that I got everything down because we can dive into your team or like the different projects that have been done. Like even before I got involved from a distance. But I mean, let's say you mentioned Diane, but her work with like the
wellness centers.
The wellness, that's absolutely essential considering what we talked earlier about the physical. Like some people that are afraid to be outside, and there's prior to COVID, there was already like you're not so sure about going outside. Maybe it's the cold, maybe it's just your physical handicap or the ice and all the problems that might incur when you're going outside. But now there's COVID, so now what Diane has done with what's on YouTube, people can go have a look. But it's
yoga and global fitness and that sort of thing for seniors.
The two specialists that you work with, Gail Lukin and Lauren Kyle, I mean, those little episodes are incredible, and I'm sure that they've helped with the people's health. So that was one of the mandates that she was put in charge of, and that's excellent.
The wellness centers, it's basically, we have two, been running one in Rawdon, one in Mascouche, so it's a half day of activities in each place, and the activities can be extremely varied. Health conferences, exercise sessions, cognitive games, sometimes just fun things, or a cooking workshop, anything that can
the cooking, that's great.
Yeah, people that any way that we can engage them and get them to come out and participate in things. And so our seniors, Diane does she's the coordinator for the wellness centers, but we also have a seniors outreach worker, Jocelyn, who does more of the individual stuff. And so she actually goes to people's homes and was able to do it to a certain extent during COVID. Usually it would be on the doorstep, in the doorway, or through a window or whatever, and connecting them with services. And it's crazy the kinds of things that she may do in a week for people that, some of them it's just as simple as helping them make a doctor's appointment or to get on the list to have a family doctor, vaccination appointments or testing appointments, setting up medical transport if they don't drive. But even in the case of one of her recent guys, she drove 40 minutes, he's blind, to go hook up a stereo for him. What other organization does that?
Yeah.
Nobody does that. We do that. So we adapt. That approach is adapted to the person who's in front of you and what do they need today. And we have quite a bit of. We've got a good partnership with the CLSC and the Health and Social Service in general. That they know who we are and what we do, and so where their mandate stops, sometimes they ask us if we can kick in a bit, and so that's pretty dynamic. It changes all the time, and we've seen all kinds of joys and all kinds of sorrows through that as well. We've got two people working on early childhood. So Celine, who you're working with now, that she's working through early childhood, but mostly on the paternal engagement side of things. How do we get our dads not how do we get them more involved. They are involved. How do we showcase them and show off that and show them how important that role is so that they actually feel validated in what they do with their kids. Don't always get told, he always puts the diaper on backwards or, like, so what? There's a diaper, like, is it really that important? Yeah. Do we understand what a dad's role is in raising a child? So that's what she's been working on. And Carol also works in early childhood with the preschool Busy Bees parent-child workshops. So helping kids get ready for kindergarten or pre-K, whatever the case may be, and parents as well, preparing the parents for that transition. So that's all about transitions.
And she's done, like, the musical, Carol has done a lot of music. And
a lot of cultural stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's interesting as well.
She loves music. She loves culture. So we gave her a little piece of that, too, to work on as well.
Have a look at the YouTube again. I mean, I'm inviting people to go see the YouTube page for ECOL because there's a lot of good, like, great little shows.
Yeah, we sponsored a few shows during the last months, and they were pretty entertaining, I'd say.
Originally, at the basic of it is like it's outreach. You're there to shake hands and get close to people when you can, especially with the restrictions. But I mean, it's not meant to be video. It's not meant to be on the social media. It is an important tool, but I mean, like, it must have felt so good to be out there again. Yeah,
absolutely. And we missed it last year. Carol also works with the high school students who are transitioning, because a lot of what she does is transitions, right? Transitioning into kindergarten, into school, and then transitioning out of school at the end of things. So the kids who are ready to leave high school and maybe go off to CCHAT, but if they want to study in English, it's in Montreal. Well, Montreal, it might as well be China for some of the kids. Maybe some of them have never even been to Montreal. So take a subway, go on the metro, catch the buses, find yourself an apartment. Where can I get a job? Where can I buy used books? All these kinds of things that create a lot of anxiety, the unknown. And so part of our job, too, is to help them prepare for that, actually physically bring them into Montreal, do an overnighter, stay at a youth hostel, and just do scavenger hunts by metro and things like that, and get them like, okay, now we feel confident enough. And it helps the parents feel confident to let the kids go as well. So that's pretty important.
Yeah, because all the kids, I mean, you're in Rawdon, you're staying there until, like, you have to go study. So after that, like, you have a decision to make, because
at 16,
as a kid, you need to get out of Rawdon. You need to go study. And
if you want to study in English, you're going to go somewhere else. So, I mean, eventually, we also have the youth employment part of things, and we'd like to also look into youth entrepreneurship. That we did a little bit this summer with the Chamber of Commerce in Rawdon and the Carrefour Jeunesse Emploi, that they do have a youth entrepreneurship project. And, so we worked with them a little bit on that, and that's pretty positive, too. So those are, I guess, the main things. The other thing is the work we do through McGill University funding, that it's for the recruitment and retention of bilingual health professionals in the regions, not so much in the province, because they can actually recruit and retain a whole lot of them in Montreal. But not a whole lot of them want to come work in Lanaudière for various reasons. So one of the things notably we manage for the Lanaudière region is a scholarship program for youth study. Well, not just youth, anybody studying in health and social services, and who is bilingual and who is attached to their community in some way. So we gave out, I don't know how many. I don't want to misspeak. Maybe 6 or 7 bursaries this year. That vary from $2,500 up to $10,000 for a university level scholarship. And the only string attached is that the student, once they've completed their studies, must promise to come back and work in the region for 1 year. If they don't, they have to repay the bursary. But they understand that, and it's a good way for us to recruit out of Montreal.
Are there, like, stage, like, from people, like, let's say, studying in tourism or whatnot, and then you invite them to come in the region and do certain things during, like, the stage situation?
We haven't done that yet in that field, but it's something we're working on in the health and social service because we are specifically funded for that. But new funding that we've received could allow us to do that as well. There is already Place aux Jeunes en Région, which pretty fine organization, I would say. It's to draw youth into the regions and young people who have just graduated and show them around, show them a good time in the region and try to get them enthusiastic about coming and staying with us, you know. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to get, you know, to expand a little bit more into that as well and open up into other fields instead of just health and social services. But already, like I said, we've got quite a bit on our plate. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it does go beyond your mandate. You're trying to work with what you have, and you have something to respect, like in what you're supposed to do. And then, but like, how do you do a little extra more just to? You send it out to other groups that are around, like other organizations that are pretty much rather adapted to those mandates, and then you just say, oh, by the way, there's this going on, do you want to have a look at it? And that's why you keep in contact with the other organizations to build the region? Or
a lot of that. How can we get involved with what's already happening? Is there something that we think should be happening that's not happening yet? And if so, with whom can we work? But really, I guess we've been able to expand our mandate because of new funding from the Quebec government, which was pretty legendary when that came in. The Quebec government was not funding English language organizations. And now they are. So through a program called the ERCC program, what we chose to go along with was opening up our mandate to not to limit ourselves just to health and social services, but to also touch upon culture, heritage, and what am I missing? And employment. But that does not preclude working eventually on tourism or other things like that. So, just trying to bring the English community, building bridges is what it's all about. That we're not two solitudes anymore. That's old-fashioned. That should be gone now.
Pardon me, solitude?
Two solitudes was the expression that was used to describe the French and English communities in Quebec. And no, we shouldn't be two solitudes anymore.
It's like
Doesn't
I
make
said
sense.
before. Yeah, no, but yeah. Well, I mean, you're gonna have to try the other wine. Yeah, I'll give you a little when you're done. I'm not forcing you to chug that down.
What is that one?
It's
this one's nice too.
Saint Gabriel de Brandon, the vignoble in
the
Saint Gabriel de
vignoble.
Brandon. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
a little bit more woodsy than that one.
Okay.
Is that one Quebec made?
No, this one I think it's Spanish.
Spanish one is good too.
Yes, it's Spanish. Yeah, I like it too.
Because I saw Anvers, so I'm like, that's francophone.
Yes.
But they're trying to get the Quebec people to have a little taste. It's anyways, the Saint Gabriel Saint Gabriel de Brandon vignoble is incredible. The wine they do that is organic, and it's so tasty. It's more woodsy than that one. I'll whenever you want.
I will
you can have a
taste
little
some of that.
taste. Yeah. God damn it, I went off topic. Let me see my notes if I have anything. I don't want to forget anything that we were supposed to talk about. But I mean, one of the fundamental questions is perhaps like the role of elders in like a community. Like I've seen Stanley Vallant, who does work with the First Nations people, he does these crazy walks from like Labrador to like he does all Quebec, and he does in all the communities, different communities of like First Nations, and his work is amazing. So he puts that on the table. Like it's important to respect the elders because the First Nation youth have the issues like pertaining to their communities, and like the lack of respect or the loss, not necessarily the lack of respect, but I mean
the loss of contact or connectedness.
Yeah, with the roots and that's what he promotes through his walks, and his work is amazing. Stanley Vallant. One day I might have him on the podcast. Have you ever seen what he does?
No,
Stanley
I
Vallant.
haven't.
He does great work.
He'd be a Tikamek, les volants. No, they're, what are they?
I'm not sure.
Montagnier. Yeah, Montagnier, les volants.
Because I did a thing with Inu Mishkinu. I think it used to be Inu.
Yeah, Montagnier.
Yeah. He does great work. I did a thing with Wapikoni Mobile a few years ago. When they were their office was like on the side of the highway of the 40 in Montreal. It was such a horrible place to go. I mean, it was a beautiful place. The people working there are amazing. But going there on the bus was terrible like right next to the highway. But then I had a mandate with them to work on like a few web episodes with Stanley Vallant and his Dr. Vallant, who I think was the first chirurgien autochtone or First
wonderful.
Nations in Quebec, and his work is amazing. If ever you were able to get in touch with him, and I don't know to what extent how you could, his work is inspiring.
He's not going to speak English. pretty much guarantee.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. No, I used to work with First Nations
Okay.
communities, well, within a correctional facility.
Okay.
But exclusively First Nations. So the different the different nations, I know which ones are likely to speak English, which ones are
Okay.
not so much. The relationship between elders and youth, is there one? Other than for grandparents in some families or whatever, I think there's been, it's hot. And if I'll speak specifically for the English-speaking community, after the adoption of Bill 101, many English-speaking young people decided to leave the province and left behind their parents. They moved off to get jobs, good-paying jobs, whether it be in Ontario, in Alberta, BC. They're scattered all around. And the population, the English-speaking population, particularly in Matawini, has been aging much more rapidly than the French-speaking population because we don't have youth retention so much. And all the kids go off to study, but do they come back afterwards? Not so much. Like mine all went off to study, and only one of them is kind of like sometimes back, in transition, he's back. But so that was a big cutoff. And also our tendency to stick older people in residences and hide them away and get them in care. We get them in care. It used to be families who cared for them, but it's not that families don't care anymore. But women are no longer at home full time. Like my mom cared for my grandma who lived with us, but she wouldn't be able to. She wouldn't have been able to if she'd had a full time job. So there's been a great disconnect, I think. And then there are the stereotypes, and they go both ways. Ageism goes both ways. Young people look at an old person, it's like, what can they do? And they're useless, and, you might as well just go and sit in a rocking chair because, you don't know how to use an iPad, or you don't, what's your value? You were in school so many years ago. Everything's changed since then. Your talents and your knowledge are no longer relevant. There's that kind of attitude. And then you have on the other side, the elders who aren't in contact with the young people, and they're all scary and dangerous, and they're rude, and they don't know how to dress, and they're impolite, and they have no social skills, and they don't know how to read and write anymore. And so you get it on both sides.
Yeah.
We've tried to do, well, we haven't tried. We have done several intergenerational activities, pre-COVID. We dropped the ball on it during COVID. There were things that could have been done, but again, we didn't have the buy-in from the schools, so it was kind of hard to... Since we couldn't bring kids into the residences where the seniors were or whatever, and the residences didn't necessarily have the technology so that we could do something online. And there, again, a disconnect, a digital divide that happened there. But previous to that, we've done activities where we brought like whole classes of kids. The year before, we brought, I think, 3 different classes into 3 different seniors' residences. And the kids had all made cards, and they had songs to sing, and they told stories to the seniors, and the kids were asking, can we come back? And the seniors were asking, can they come back? And
cool.
Disappointingly, we had a project in the spring, the early spring, before winter was over, where we wanted to bring the kids to a next door seniors residence. Really, it was a short walk for the kids to go there, and we were only going to take the older ones, so grade 5, 6, the ones who don't have to go pee as soon as they get a snowsuit on, right? Because we knew we wanted to take them over to the seniors' residence, and we didn't want to have them go inside for any purpose, COVID, whatever. But we wanted them to build snow sculptures outside the windows so that the seniors could look out the window and see the kids play and build in the snow, but also have the sculptures afterwards. And we were refused because the school board would not allow any outings, no matter what the context was.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
Even though zero risk. Zero risk. Actually, less than zero risk, because they have more risk if they're sitting in a classroom altogether than if they're outside. Anyway, so those kinds of things make it a challenge. But I do think that for the intergenerational... there's something to be done there. There's more to be done. It's not that we haven't done anything, but there's much more to be done to bring them together and to stop dividing people. French, English, old, young.
Divide and conquer. Whoever's throwing
I didn't
that
say
out
it, you
there.
did.
No, I didn't. I'll take the responsibility. I do think about that a lot because I've always had English friends since I've been a kid. I've been fascinated by other languages, always trying to learn from other people. I remember I had a friend when I was like 6 or 7. His name was Robert. His parents came from Poland, and so they were English speakers, and they lived at the end of the road. And I'd go to his place, play GI Joe. We were like, he was speaking in English, and I'd been raised with, my mom was just preparing supper for us. We'd watch like Happy Days and the Muppets, and I'd go play with Robert at the end of the road. So that was my first English friend, and I've had friends after that, and I've always had a fascination with language and learning English and trying to enlighten myself. And I think that that's something that's important for everybody to learn other languages and explore the planet, explore different cultures, and be open-minded, may it be French or English, and just to have that scientific mindset in life where, like, there needs to be that click at some point when you're at school, and you need to realize that your life goal is to have like a scientific mind and go out there and absorb knowledge and not think in terms of politics or patriotism or being associated with a specific group and defending that group. It's very chimpanzee. It's very limited.
Not putting limits on oneself.
Yeah.
The best gift that I think my husband and I gave our children was to raise them in a bilingual environment, which meant language, the spoken language, but it also meant the kinds of books that we read or the movies or the TV shows that we would present to them. They did English school, they did French school. They function well. French, English, whatever. My eldest actually speaks smatterings of several languages because she went out and traveled and worked in different countries. And what a gift.
Yeah,
what
seriously.
a gift. I feel children who aren't being raised bilingually, especially in Quebec, are so deprived.
Yep.
In Canada, overall, they're being so deprived. You're cutting them off from opportunities. You're cutting them off from understanding. Because with language builds understanding.
Yep.
Our culture is in the language. I have not found a word in English that properly translates for l'accueil, an organization, l'accueil, and it's welcoming people or it's greeting people, but it's not the sense of the word. The word is so much deeper and richer than that, but we don't have it in English. So when I speak to my children or when I speak to my bilingual friends, we speak franglais, we're always throwing in, because there's a better word in French or there's a better word in English to describe this. And sometimes it's another word in another language that you can throw in, and it just builds richness and deepness to your understanding.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend, Mark, who, like, later on, a friend that is English speaking, but at some point, he's always been in Quebec, so the language was always there, and like he's speaking French today. And I remember when he really caught on the language, and I was like, oh my God, that's really cool, My biggest
personal accomplishment in life, I would say, I'm sure my kids would like to say it was having them, but no. It was really when I started defining myself as bilingual. And okay, I'm not perfect. I'll still make some grammatical errors, or I'll write something and you can tell maybe it's written by an English person or somebody who just was distracted or something. But being able to generally master the French language, like to the point where I'll watch a movie, I won't recognize if it's in French or English, or I'll dream in French or in English, and it just sort of floats in and out, and I love that. And probably at 53, it's time for me to learn another language, so I can add another layer to that understanding.
It's crazy because when you think about it, and when you know history, and that's probably another reason to go back to books and to educate yourself, but when you look at history, like 400 years ago, you wouldn't have understood necessarily someone speaking either English or French. Like you would, or the culture, you'd be totally, where am I?
What is this?
It's not English speaking. The culture and the language is foreign to me. Taking that into consideration, like in another 200 years, like the culture will be so different. So what is the purpose of patriotism and that blind faith in a group of people that have a flag on top of their house? Like it's just going to disappear, and and the really viscerally the most important thing is the human community. I mean, it's kind of like a far-fetched ideal of mine, but I mean, it is. I mean, you can't, it's, you want some more?
Oh, I want to try that one.
It's really tasty.
Yeah, I'll try that one.
It's woodsy. They do great work at the Vignoble in St. Gabriel de Brandon. It's like
I've been before, but it's been a long time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good.
Take the time to really taste this one, actually.
But are we going too much in depth of the English-French?
We may be.
Yeah.
We may be. I don't know.
I'm doing it respectfully. I'm not.
Yeah, and you're going to edit anyway and reflect on it. So
yeah.
So.
Because it thwarts the intellectual intentions of any culture when you're repressing that open-mindedness.
Well, when I was hired by the Maison des Jeunes de Rawdon in 1998, and I worked there only for 2 years, but those were turbulent years for relations between English and French-speaking youth. And very turbulent.
Yeah, you're right. Looking back, like today I can afford to say that, but I mean, back in the days where, certain events occurred in like the French versus English, like today I can afford to say that, but in the past it was very intense.
It was very turbulent back then at the Maison des Jeunes for sure. And today, well, even with my kids, because they were tiny when I worked there, so even like 10 years later, I didn't sense that anymore. They moved between the communities. There were no great rivalries between say, Joliet High School and the ECOL des Rawdon, and we're going to get together and have a big fight. And,
oh, my goodness.
We had to deal with that, my husband and I, when I worked at the Maison des Jeunes. We had organized a disco, and we had heard the rumors that the French kids from Joliet were going to come and beat the crap out of the English kids during the disco. And so actually my husband and other volunteers, they
intervened?
They, not right away, they went before the disco started. It was in a school with a cemetery right beside it, and they went and they did the tour of the premises and in the cemetery and everything, and found all kinds of hidden arms. Good God. Yeah. Chains on ratchets kind of thing, like nasty stuff. And anyway, during the disco, and we were prepared for it, we had advised the police that we were expecting that something might happen, so please, stay attentive to this. And during the disco, well, something did break out, and all of a sudden, it's like they'd all given the cue. Nobody had a cell phone in those days, right? They weren't texting each other. It was just like they had their wristwatch. They knew what time it was happening. Okay, at this time, everybody outside in the parking lot, we had parents there who were egging them on. Like, I beat the crap out of his father when I was your age. And it's like, and this is what we had to deal with while I'm calling the police. And again, no cell phones. You have to run and use the landline, rotary dial.
Quarter, where's my quarter?
Jeez. Yeah, it was pretty stressful. And fortunately, my husband is very good with youth, had lots of experience, and our other volunteers and our other staff too, that were able to pretty much calm things down by the time the police got there. But the way it was not taken seriously by anybody except us, was appalling. And we ended up holding a community forum. We got involved with our CLSC, and we said that it's gotten out of hand, it's crazy. Yeah. And people are scared. And older people, they see groups of young people strolling down the street, and they're, oh my goodness, it's a gang, it's a street gang, where they're going to beat us up and whatever. So we held a bilingual community forum where we could come out and speak about all these issues. And actually, I must say it did a lot. Just that, to acknowledge there's a problem, and a lot of us don't find it acceptable, and let's just talk. Yeah. Let's just share. What do you think? What do you think of them? What do they think of you? And translating everything that was said back and forth. And I think that was the beginning of an end, actually.
Was that a really important...
it was a very important moment. That would have been
for you, that must have been like
1999, I guess. Yeah. Yep. Around there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, like I said, my children were pretty little back then. My eldest would have been 6, 7 years old, and they didn't experience so much that. A little bit my eldest, I guess, starting school, but by the time she turned 7, 8, so in 93, 94, we weren't even feeling it anymore.
Man, there was a lot of tension,
There was
60s,
a lot of
70s, and then,
Well,
I guess
this was in 98 to 2000. Yes, so it is the older generation that went
Yeah.
through the tensions and then
Yeah.
were like spewing off onto their children,
So
I
it's
guess.
like PTSD kind of situation.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. And you know, for me, I'm a newcomer to Quebec. I only moved here in 1985, so that's not very long for. I can't say I'm de souche at all. I'm not a historic Anglophone, not by to use Legault's terminology. I'm not, and so I didn't go through all of that. I wasn't here for the Quiet Revolution. I wasn't here for Bill 101. I wasn't here for any of that stuff. I showed up in the 80s, and then again, I didn't speak French back then, so it took quite a while to integrate into the French-speaking community. By the time I did, though, in the early 90s, I can say that I've seen huge change, and it's been for the better.
Yeah.
So-
But you were here to integrate in the community. You weren't here to integrate in like the Anglophone community
Oh, no,
necessarily.
no.
You know?
No.
You were there to be with the people that were there.
I lived in Montreal in the Centre Sud, or I wasn't in NDG, I wasn't in Westmount, I wasn't. No, I came here because I wanted to learn about the language, the culture, the people,
So
the politics.
you do have, you have the scientific mind. Do you? Are you like an artist? Do you have like a?
I'm not an artist at all. No.
But you're like you do have that scientific.
I like to analyze
Yeah.
and strategize and try to understand things at a deeper level than what we're going to say on the evening news at 6:00.
Being told what to believe and then going out there and
Executing. And I guess that's maybe another one of my superpowers is coming from outside and then looking. Sometimes it feels like I'm looking through glass globes, you know, those Christmas glass globes that you turn upside down and shake them and the snow falls or whatever that. And I'm standing outside and shaking it a bit and seeing like, how does the snow fall with this one and with this one? And getting an understanding of those who are historic Anglophones in Quebec, whose families have been here for generations and generations and contributed to the development of Quebec, versus the other ones who came in from the outside.
Yeah.
And maybe expecting things to be like, well, how come it's not like this or how come it's not like that, without taking the time to understand why it is like it is. But we're all moving forward together, I hope.
Well, for me, I mean, I've always been, as I said, been interested in thinking about it. Like you said, taking time to observe and see what's going on and want to connect with people. And no matter the language, but making a parallel with, like, let's say the elder. My grandfather was an interesting person, like larger than life, went to war, freed Holland, was like on the, like fighting the Nazis. And for me, that was fascinating. And my mom was always like showing photos of what he was doing, like war and all that. And like, I interviewed him like maybe 20 years ago, I think. He died, he was 100. And his stories.
Oh, I think you told me about this.
Yeah, I think I did. I did.
Yeah, and he was basically shutting you down. Like,
yeah,
he just wanted to tell his stories.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't want questions.
He knew what he was going to tell in front. He kept a few things. I don't know if I should.
Everybody should have a secret garden, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll cut this. But my mom recently, she got a call from. She found a new brother. Basically, her new brother is 71.
Okay.
And my grandfather never said anything. Like when he died, they got a letter to say that there's a sibling and he wants to connect with his old family. So that's crazy. But so anyways, the photos, my grandfather, he's those recordings are so valuable, and I think that we can learn so much from that.
Oh, like, you should talk to my colleague Diane. Her father or grandfather too.
Really?
Yeah, but she came across all kinds of letters, photos, was able to actually track his way through the occupation and where he was at such and such a time. And of course, there was a lot of censorship. They couldn't say. But yeah, no, she's extremely fascinated by that.
I'll ask her. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, she was probably. Oh, wow. And she's a good speaker. Yeah.
That is a gap that can be breached if, like, youth would be interested in history and going to school and learning about I mean, personally, school was tough for me for so many reasons. Like I had chronic shoulder pain, so I was not really focused sitting at like listening to the teacher, but I was always fascinated by history. So there needs to be like education is supremely important
Yeah.
to bridge that gap.
Actually, yeah, we're looking into maybe, I don't know, doing something along the lines of history buff club, and things like that. And maybe we can get young people interested too. Wouldn't that be cool?
I'm pretty sure that a lot of them might actually be really interested.
Actually, if I was dealing with young people, probably, I would approach it in a different way from the usual way we do it, which is like chronologically or whatever. I would start from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and roll them backwards in time instead of rolling it forwards. I think
because you understand yourself so much better when you objective look.
When you can see where your parents were coming from, where your grandparents were coming from, where your where society was coming from at each stage of things.
Yeah, because they feel entitled today because they're not aware of that. They're going to say, oh, my grandparents, what can you give today? But that's because they feel entitled. They're not respectful.
Well, it's because there's no
there's only now
recognition of what was given beforehand.
Yeah.
Do you have to keep giving for 80, 90, 100 years? Do you have to? Like, haven't you given enough after 60, 78? Like, really?
Yeah.
You've paid in. Now can you just collect? And yeah.
Get out of the way because we're here now. I'm here now, and I'm entitled to my Yeah,
well, I wasn't respectful of my elders when I was young either, so.
I didn't understand either. It took a while.
And now we see there's an importance, and that's what we can give the younger generation.
So right now I'm working with those photos and that recording with my grandfather, and
Nice.
it's definitely something that I will inspire my family, and yeah, I can't wait to share that. We don't need to make this podcast like 3 hours long.
No, I don't think so.
I'm having a great conversation.
Me too, but I think we've gone beyond ECOL.
Yeah, seriously. That's what I'm trying to do with the podcast. I'm trying to figure out what the person's values are, what motivates them to have such a beautiful passion in professional life and personal life. And I think we have run through.
I think we've run through a lot of things.
Yeah. We don't need to.
Because we could do this till tomorrow morning, maybe.
Yeah,
but,
seriously.
We probably shouldn't.
All right. Well, I think so. We've pretty much discussed everything that was on the table today, and obviously, I'd love to have you again at another podcast at a later time, maybe in about 10 episodes or something.
Sure. For our 10th anniversary, how about next year?
That'd be amazing. That's a great idea.
Do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great work you're doing, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here today at the podcast. Do you want to give us some social media links, the website for ECOL or?
First of all, our most active place is Facebook. So if you look for our English community organization, Lanaudière, it will pop up. We do have a youth page as well, where we put a lot of employment and education information. We have a website, so ECOL-Lanaudière, which is LANAUDIERE.org. There, got it. We are on YouTube as well, so you can again go look for English Community Organization Lanaudière, and it'll pop up for you. And there's lots of great videos, all kinds of different things. If it's yoga you're looking for, other exercise programs, cooking workshops, or history and heritage videos. Plus we've got one or two youth things, children's things on there, and we're going to be building on this over the next year. So please come and like us, and go and like Ericzone too, because Eric's got Eric covers a number of interesting topics and is always pleasant to listen to, and his guests are. They're like me. They're not stupid.
they're passionate and beautiful people, and I'm so happy you're here today. And thank you so much again, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Eric. I do too. It was a great 5 cassettes.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Cheers, people.
Cheers to all of you.